When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in 1 convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
I remember feeling sick. Feeling so sick. Reading through those transcripts just filled me up with more and more bitter questions.
Anytime I moved, they texted and followed. I was fearing the worst about these guys, and my boyfriend was taking too long.
From killer podcasts, true tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This week, we're bringing you 5 haunting stories ripped from real encounters. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. First, we head to the aisles of a familiar store, where something far more sinister than receipt checkers were waiting. Narrated by Dallas Stark, from Reddit user ChemicalPiglet7080. Creepy men at Walmart.
I'm 21, and I have a long-term partner who is 24. He's a pretty big guy, 6'6" to be exact. We're the type of couple who likes to do all of our errands together. So it's been a few years since I felt unsafe when I'm out on the town. Being with him, even though I'm a smaller college girl, lets me know that creeps won't really try anything. Scary dog privilege or something like that. We recently took a trip to Walmart so that he could buy some batteries for his new Xbox controllers. I'd say it was around 8 p.m. It wasn't dark out, but it definitely wasn't daytime anymore. We had just come from stuffing ourselves at Olive Garden, and as we were walking around the store, my boyfriend told me that his stomach wasn't feeling good. He said he was going to quickly head to the restroom and asked where I should meet him. I told him the candle aisle, and we parted ways. Not long after I'd made it to the candle aisle, I noticed a man in a red shirt, probably in his 40s, pass my aisle. As he walked by, he gave me one of those creepy up and down glances that I could feel in my soul. I didn't think much of the interaction, though, as it looked like he continued walking. I kept looking around for a bit. When I turned towards the opposite side of the aisle, I saw him again, standing a little too close to me, pretending to look at the items on the shelves, while also furiously texting. He kept looking at me, pretty unashamed of full eye contact. I think he had seen me in the aisle, passed it, and looped back to my aisle by walking down the next one and turning around. I immediately felt uncomfortable, so I left that aisle and went to the back of the Walmart where the electronics are. During my walk, I noticed that the man in the red shirt met up with a few other men. 2 were in their 30s and wore navy shirts, and the third was in his late 20s and wore a gray shirt. All 4 of them followed me to the electronics section, pretending to look at home speakers while they watched me from across the aisle. The thing that really creeped me out was the fact that even though they were in a group, none of them spoke to each other. They just kept texting and texting and texting while eyeing each other and myself. Anytime I moved, they texted and followed. For some context, trafficking is incredibly common where I live. Most of the shopping centers in my area are off exits of the major highway that can quickly get you to 2 of the biggest airports in the South, Atlanta and Charlotte. It's easy to snatch someone up, be on the same highway for 2 hours in either direction, and then put them on a plane to never be seen again. I was fearing the worst about these guys, and my boyfriend was taking too long. I went up to one of the store associates and lied about being interested in something in the case, just so I could have someone with me until my man got out of the restroom. We chatted about some sort of lava lamp that I was pretending I wanted to buy. Once my boyfriend texted me that he was in the candle aisle looking for me, I immediately thanked the employee and beelined to him. I walked so fast that the group of men missed me leave. When I got to my boyfriend, I pointed to the group behind my back and said, "I think these guys have been following me." I definitely listen to too much true crime, so oftentimes I'll say, "I got a weird vibe from someone," and nothing is actually wrong. My boyfriend just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Let's just get what we need and get out of here then." However, in the very short amount of time that it took us to make our way to the batteries, conveniently right by self-checkout, the man in the gray shirt had beelined it to me. When I looked up, he was speed walking from the electronics straight towards me, all while texting like a madman. My heart immediately started racing. I knew now that something was wrong. You guys know how big Walmarts are. He got to the front of the store from where the electronics were in the back within seconds. Seconds. I guess you could have mistaken me and my boyfriend as single shoppers from the way that we were standing, because the man got right behind me in line. So close behind me that if I had to scratch my back or something, my elbow would hit him. Thankfully, I had nudged my boyfriend as soon as I saw the man making his way to me. Once he got behind me, my boyfriend made eye contact with him and pulled me in front of him. All of a sudden, after the man noticed I wasn't alone, he got out of line and started seeming very interested in the battery kiosk close by. Once we'd gotten into our car, I noticed the same man, shortly followed by the man in the red shirt, make their way into the parking lot without any purchases, very visibly scanning the parking lot and texting furiously. It's terrifying to think what could have happened if I had gone in alone.
You're listening to Disturbed. We'll be right back. I don't scare easy, but something that makes my stomach turn over is cheap clothes. After one wash, this shirt is tattered and shrunk. Absolutely terrifying should the encounter ever happen without my ability to brace myself. That's why I trust Quince for all my clothing choices nowadays. My Flow-Knit Performance Zip hoodie from them is a staple of my closet now. Comfortable, fashionable, and well-made. Quince is everything you need this summer, because the only thing worse than being hunted by a crazed killer is doing it while overpaying. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/disturbed for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Next, a woman turns to therapy in her most vulnerable moments, only to discover that the person she trusted wasn't who they claimed to be. Narrated by Catherine Restivo.
I had a really shitty childhood. It was so terrible that I don't remember much from before I was 13. Everything I know about what happened through those years was from a mixture of sparse memories, things my family has told me about myself, and police reports. One of the things I do remember is this lady I called Auntie. No first name, no last name, nothing else contributing to her identity. She was just Auntie. I started seeing her when I was 7 years old, sitting in her living room as she typed everything I said down on her laptop. She was a psychologist, and I had no problem with her. I saw her once every month. She seemed gentle enough that I really thought she was someone I could trust. 7 years later, when I was 14, I admitted to her that I tried to kill myself numerous times. It was a mixture of multiple different factors. My mother's increasing toxicity, the lack of social interaction at the time, and more importantly, I never moved on from the horrors of my childhood. Around this time, I started to wonder why these meetings with Auntie never actually seemed to help me, especially because I begged her to tell me why I constantly wanted to die. I remember on the way to Auntie's house, I asked my mother if I would ever get a chance to see a different person, maybe get a different sort of help that Auntie clearly couldn't give. She just hissed at me to be quiet. The relationship between me and my mother began to crack. She became a source of grief to me, and I cried about it during multiple sessions with my auntie. Auntie, at the end of these sessions, would try to defend my mother or make me seem like I was blowing things out of proportion. I tried to come up with my own reasons at the time about why she was not trying to understand things wholly. I chalked it up to her being empathetic. Maybe being able to explain why my mother was terrible was supposed to help me embrace it in some weird way. Now, I admit that when I was 16, I was a terrible kid. I went to parties, drank whatever was served, and definitely did not tell anyone what I was doing. The relationship between me and my mother had almost been completely severed. Auntie started to ask very specific questions, especially surrounding those kind of activities. I was in shock. Again, I gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought that her sudden pinpointing of these things must be from the fact that at this point, she's known me for almost a decade. Even up to a year after these parties happened, she would bring them up without me ever having told her. And she didn't even hide behind her questions. She just kind of acted like it was a fact. The worst part of all, which still affects me to this day, is that at the end of each session, Auntie had started to invite my mom into the room and tell her every single thing I said. It was terrible hearing my own words against my mother, explaining the increasing abuse that she had begun to put me through, said straight to her face as she sat next to me. My grades in school began to drop. My mother forbade me from going out, and I was completely isolated. So I tried to kill myself on my 17th birthday. I ran into my mother's room looking for something that I could overdose with, or just something that could push me to the edge. I remember rummaging through everything until I went into her walk-in closet. I had barely gone into her room. In fact, I completely forgot that she even had a walk-in. In my crazed state, I just remember running into her closet and looking through every crevice. I stumbled upon a suitcase leaning against the wall under the hung-up clothes. If I closed my eyes, I can still imagine it. It didn't look old, which is probably what made me decide to open it up. And when I did, all I saw was a shit ton of papers. The surprise of seeing so much snapped me out of the state I was in, and I recall sitting cross-legged on the floor and wondering what the fuck these papers were. After a while of reading, I realized that these were transcripts of Auntie and I's sessions, literally dating all the way back to some of the first sessions that I did. I remember feeling sick, feeling so sick. I had enough sense to steal a few of the papers, and I only took some of the earlier ones because I thought their absence would be less noticeable. Reading through those transcripts just filled me up with more and more bitter questions, and I decided that night that I would kill myself after what I figured out what was going on. I was on a time crunch, feeling stressed because I really only had a year left to figure out what the hell was going on before I was faced with the looming threat of being kicked out as soon as I turned 18. I started to pay way more attention in our sessions, looking around her house whenever I got the chance to, looking for some indicators that could tell me who this psychologist really was. I started asking my mother more and more questions about Auntie, and she kept deflecting, repeating the same fact. She was a psychologist. That's until I did something that literally almost ruined the rest of my life. I decided to steal my mother's phone. It seems like a small thing now, but then it was really life or death. My mother was in the shower, and I had already packed all the stuff I needed to be out for a few hours, maybe even for a few nights somewhere. As soon as I heard the door lock, I swiped my mother's phone and bolted out of the house. I didn't even look down at the damn thing until I was on the bus. I remember looking through my mother's messages first, and I knew I found Auntie when I stumbled across an unfamiliar name. I confirmed it when the messages clearly showed my mother booking appointments. The bus got me to a safe place, but even as I walked off the bus, having scrolled through years of text with Auntie, I had found nothing incriminating. I then looked through my mother's call logs, and I saw they call extremely often. I wasn't an idiot. Whatever was really going on was happening on calls instead of messages, which was smart, but it still didn't get me anything. I found a place to sit on the side of the road, and I continued my search. I looked through my mother's social media, and when I tried searching up Auntie's name, nothing came up. I genuinely felt all hope leave my body. I almost gave up. Almost. Every day, I thank myself for mindlessly swiping through my mother's followers, because I found her. Her account name didn't have her real name, some weird fake one. But when I clicked on her profile, it was most definitely her. She posted photos with some of my mother's friends, and I scrolled for a while down her page until I saw a photo that she posted of herself and my mother years ago. They have literally been friends since before I was ever born. I felt sick, betrayed, and a little bit relieved that I now knew what the hell was going on. Why my mother had transcripts, why Auntie didn't even think twice before telling my mother every single thing I said, and why she defended her. I didn't even bother to find a place to stay that night. I just went back home. I got beat black and blue for doing something that didn't deserve any forgiveness. It didn't hurt at all compared to what I found out earlier that day. All I asked my mother that night was, "Who is Auntie really?" And she couldn't even answer that. A few years later, I started my first year of university, and I was lucky enough to move out of my mother's house as soon as I got the chance to. An old friend took pity on me and allowed me to stay with him since we applied to the same university. And we've since become best friends, actually. What finally gave me closure in some bittersweet way was clearing out my Instagram. I deleted people that I didn't care about or didn't know. As I was going through my followers, I saw a familiar username. My heart dropped. I typed the username in the search bar, and it came up with Auntie's Facebook account. This psycho had been following me for God knows how long on my Instagram, and suddenly, everything that didn't click finally made sense. The precise questions, why my mother suddenly decided to isolate me from my friends, all that stuff. It didn't even say psychologist or anything in her fucking bio. Tell me why it said chemistry teacher with over 20 years. Fuck my life. I admit that I cried like a baby that night. It had taken years for me to finally understand why two of my main female role models seemed to despise me. Still, to this day, I mourn the fact that most of my early adult years are being spent healing from everything in my childhood, instead of going out with newly made friends and giving my all in school. It sucks. Everyone who hears my life story agrees on the fact that there's something wrong with them. I just wished I knew that sooner. 2 days ago, I had my first session with a real psychologist. Trust me, I did my research. I felt almost ashamed when I blurted out the reason why I'm sitting in this guy's chair. But he just smiled and told me we had a lot of work to do. Yeah, we do. I decided to tell my experience just in the slight chance anyone had a similar experience with therapy becoming fucked up, or they feel like they've been living in a hole their entire life. I promise you guys, it gets better. With a little luck and surrounding yourself with the right people at least.
Our third story steps into the realm of the unexplained. When grief lingers and doors creak open on their own, is it coincidence or something more? narrated by Meghan Barylak.
I'm a medical examiner at a coroner's office. I've had many paranormal experiences at this job, so I'm not usually taken aback when things happen. I just respect that we are in their space, especially with how invasive we have to be. I let them get out their frustrations. I respect them in that way. 5 years into the job, I was performing an autopsy and had just finished up. I said my regular prayers, which I do out of respect, especially if I know their beliefs. I walked into my office, shut the door, sat down on my desk, looked up, and there was a teen girl. She just looked at me. She wasn't a patient of mine, nor had she been in the past. I had no idea who she was. I blinked and she disappeared. Weeks pass, and I cannot get her face out of my head. I can't place where I would know her from. Nothing. I had absolutely no idea who she was. About 3 days after I gave up, she showed up again. She walked up to me and hugged me, breathed, "I'm so sorry," and disappeared. But instead of feeling her embrace, she went through me and disappeared. It shook me to my core. About a month later, I came across an old photo. It was my sister with a girl I didn't recognize. I brought it to my mother. She sat me down and told me some disturbing truths. Before I was born, my oldest sister passed away due to a drunk driving accident. They were going the wrong way and hit her. After I was born, my father, who doesn't deserve that title, admitted that the reason he wanted me was to replace the daughter he lost. I believe the girl I saw was my sister. She was younger in the photo, but they looked super similar. I don't know if I had just seen the photo and had a hallucination, or my sister is still roaming this earth. Is it bad that I hope that I was hallucinating instead of her being trapped on this earth as a spirit? I feel bad, but I also just want her to be at peace. Or I want to be able to talk to her, maybe get some closure I need after finding that all out. I haven't seen her since, so hopefully she has found her peace.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks. Smooth, bright, deliciously crafted. Introducing Starbucks Sansera Blend, their smoothest, brightest coffee yet. It's a new kind of light roast, one that's packed with so much flavor, it shines no matter how you brew it. So go ahead and try it hot, iced, black, or with a splash of creamer. Visit athome.starbucks.com/Sansera-blend-coffee to bring Starbucks Sansera Blend home.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
Welcome back to the podcast. Now, a story of a quiet childhood memory that resurfaces with eerie clarity, and what seemed like an innocent moment reveals a much darker undertone. Narrated by Brian Jeffords, from Reddit user Thank You for the Venom.
This happened years ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. I also don't believe in ghosts or anything, and I'm sure there's a logical explanation for this somewhere, but it still freaks me out to this day. So my stepfather works out of town, and he used to stay the whole week away from the family. We had a tradition of all taking turns having sleepovers when he was gone, meaning my siblings and I would sleep in rooms other than our own. One time it was my turn to have a sleepover in my mom's bedroom, which always freaked everyone out. Seriously, if there's ever been a ghost in the house, it is definitely back there. I don't have time to get into all of it, but just know the bedroom is weird. We'd always hear stuff moving around in there, scratching and pounding at the door, and the bathroom and closet lights would flicker. Weird stuff. None of my siblings wanted to be in there by themselves. Well, during the sleepover, my mom said she's going to go outside to smoke a cig. She asked me if I wanted to keep the light on until she got back, and of course I told her yes. She went outside and I just kind of chilled in the room for a few minutes, trying not to freak out. Then the lights turned off and I felt my mom get back in the bed next to me. My back was to her and I didn't turn around. I just said something stupid like, "Hi," or "Welcome back." She started rubbing my back and her hands felt cold. But of course she was just outside smoking, so of course she would be cold. She kept rubbing my back and then started scratching it. After a bit, it became uncomfortable and then started to hurt. It wasn't a normal back rub or back itching anymore. She was hurting me. I told her to stop, and at first she didn't. But after I asked again, it went back to a normal, nice back rub. Then the door opened, and a voice said, "I thought you wanted the light on." It was my mom. I said, "Yeah, I did, but you came back a few minutes ago, remember?" I was feeling confused and a bit freaked out, so at this point, I finally rolled over to look at her, and she was just now getting into the bed. She told me she just got back from smoking. I asked if she was sure she was just now coming in, and she confirmed it. I thought maybe I had imagined the whole thing. So I told my mom that my back was itchy and asked if she could shine her phone's flashlight on my back. When she looked, she said it was all red with scratch marks. It's been years and I still think about that night. I have no idea what happened or who was touching me.
And finally, what happens when your coworker isn't just annoying, but obsessed? Narrated by Hannah North, from Reddit user Not Faye. My coworker was a deranged stalker.
At my old job, 2 of my co-workers and I had to go on a work trip. One of them was a man, and the other was a Muslim woman who wore a hijab. Trust me, that will be relevant later. Everything went well at first. The first night, I was really tired, so when my co-workers invited me to go to dinner, I turned them down and went back to my hotel room. The next day, my male co-worker was acting kind of quiet and insisted I sit in the front of the car instead of the back. Weird, but I didn't think too much of it. After our shift, my female co-worker invited us to have some drinks in her room. I thought, why not? Just a couple of beers wouldn't hurt. We drank, talked, and had fun. Until my female co-worker started hitting on my male co-worker. Mind you, he's happily married, and so is she. She told him he should remove his shirt, and I guess he got uncomfortable because he told us he was going to bed. They were both much older than me, so I brushed it off. Maybe this was just a weird dynamic they had, and I didn't understand what was going on. This was also my first job, so I didn't know what was appropriate, and I didn't want to make any waves. I'm kind of awkward, and didn't want her to think I wouldn't hang out alone with her, so I stayed. After all, her behaviour towards me wasn't all that alarming. That was a huge mistake. She started showing me pictures of her kids and family, and then she pulled up the Instagram page of some model. He didn't have too many followers, but he was obviously a physically attractive guy. She told me they were having an affair and that she'd soon be divorcing her husband to run away with this man. As she talked about it, her demeanour completely changed. She had what can only be described as crazy eyes now. Without sounding too mean, let's just say she wasn't exactly physically attractive, so I was sceptical of what she was telling me. I just kind of nodded along, though, because what else was I supposed to do? I figured she was just trying to impress me or something, so no major alarm bells yet. But then she started showing me paparazzi-style pictures of him. Pictures she'd clearly taken without his knowledge. Pictures of where he worked, his friends, his family. Full-on stalker shit. I felt sick to my stomach. You know that feeling when something is just wrong? Like you know you're in danger and you need to get out? That's what I was experiencing. Then, out of nowhere, she took off her hijab and she only had a few strands of hair. Y'all, my stomach dropped. Lots of bald spots. With her hair gone and those crazy eyes, it was something out of a horror movie. Every part of me was screaming to run, so I told her I was getting kind of tired and stood up to leave, and she just said, okay, in this weird flat tone. The next day, she acted completely normal. I later talked to the male co-worker and asked him why he had seemed so tense after being alone with her. He just said she made a move on him. Let's just say I won't be ignoring my gut feeling ever again.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Noah Fouts. Our audio engineers are Nathan Corson and Will Pritz. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.